Imagine a country building underwater tunnels for nuclear submarines, hiding warheads on high-speed trains, and rehearsing lockdowns not for pandemics, but for war. That's not just speculation. It's the chilling warning of George Yeo, former Singaporean foreign minister, a man who's seen global conflict unfold up close. But what really is China planning to do, and against whom? What is something that remains hidden while the world sees China as a manufacturing factory and not a country preparing for war? In this video, we break down every shocking statement George Yeo made in his unfiltered address and reveal how China is not just preparing for war, it's rehearsing it. Let's get started. George Yeo doesn't speculate. He warns. And in the first few seconds, he delivers a line that reframes global power dynamics. He directly said, "China is preparing for war, not because China wants war, but because China knows that in order to avoid war, it must be prepared for war." At first glance, this sounds like defensive posturing, but dig deeper and it's a strategic cornerstone of China's worldview. Rooted in Sun Tzu's ancient military philosophy, it isn't about attacking first, it's about being unattackable. This logic reflects how China perceives its geopolitical environment, not as peaceful, but as temporary stability built on fragile assumptions. China doesn't trust peace to last. It believes peace must be enforced through preparation. This framing also helps decode much of China's recent behavior: military modernization, cybersecurity expansion, AI weapons testing, and even tight social control. For Beijing, all these moves are not acts of escalation. They are preventive armor. And at the heart of that armor lies one terrifying truth: if China is to deter war, it must have the power to survive it. Which brings us to the most dangerous region on Earth, the South China Sea. To the untrained eye, the South China Sea seems like a fight over shipping lanes and islands. But according to George Yeo, the real stakes are submerged. Literally. Let that sink in. The entire geopolitical tension around the South China Sea, island building, military bases, and naval standoffs is not about trade or territory. It's about nuclear survivability. Here's how it works. Unlike the US, which maintains vast land-based ICBM fields and a fleet of stealth bombers, China's main counterstrike force is underwater. It relies on ballistic missile submarines, which lurk in the vast, deep waters of the South China Sea. These submarines are China's last resort, offering the second strike capability that would allow Beijing to retaliate if attacked. Without them, China is vulnerable. With them, it is untouchable. This quirky detail isn't anecdotal. It's a strategy. Beijing reportedly incentivizes fishermen to retrieve American drones, a grassroots anti-surveillance campaign camouflaged as local fishing. Meanwhile, to make its deterrence credible, China is expanding its arsenal. Yeo says China could ramp up to 1,000 nuclear warheads, not to match America's thousands, but to ensure no first strike can neutralize its full capacity. Think about it. The more warheads scattered across mobile platforms, including high-speed rail-based ICBMs, the harder it becomes for the US to strike first without being hit back. And when counterstrike becomes inevitable, war becomes impossible. But what if the next war doesn't begin with a missile, but with a satellite? While the world watches ships and tanks, the battles of the future are being fought in invisible terrain, in space and cyberspace. And as George Yeo makes clear, China is rapidly fortifying these domains. The mistrust is total. The US won't allow internet cables near China's coast because it fears China will tap them, and vice versa. What we are witnessing is a digital Cold War, where undersea fiber optics are battlefronts and satellites are ammunition. Yeo reveals that China is burying its own internal communication systems, laying its own secure cables, and hardening digital infrastructure underground, all in anticipation of a massive cyber confrontation. Simultaneously, the race for space dominance is heating up. When NASA accuses China of trying to take over the moon, it's not an exaggeration. It's fear. Why the moon? Because in modern warfare, control over orbital space means control over Earth-bound intelligence, communications, and even weapons systems. China's accelerated space missions, from satellites, moon bases, to Mars rovers, aren't just scientific. They are strategic prepositioning. If China dominates the next-generation space infrastructure, it can blind its enemies and shield its own forces. The cyber and space domains are the new frontier, and unlike nuclear standoffs, these wars can be fought constantly, quietly, and without warning. In short, the world's next war may not start with a bang, but a blackout. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, and current affairs impacting your lives. That's when George Yeo revealed something troubling. To the outside world, China's harsh zero-COVID strategy seemed excessive. Citywide shutdowns, mass surveillance, and drones blaring instructions from the sky. But Yeo suggests a different lens. These were not just health measures. They were military-grade stress tests. China's leadership, steeped in historical precedent, draws from dynastic records where plagues threatened to topple empires. In those times, palace quarters were locked down like fortresses. Concubines were isolated into cells, with death contained to prevent the collapse of the royal lineage. That ancient playbook, Yeo implies, is now digitally upgraded. The same philosophy is evident in Shanghai's total lockdowns, not just to stop a virus, but to test how far a society can be compressed without breaking, how fast a city can be paralyzed, controlled, and reorganized. And behind that control lies something more ominous, a rehearsal not just for pandemics, but for biowarfare. In a world where viruses can be weaponized, China's lockdown drills may be the defense equivalent of missile tests. This sets the stage for understanding China's broader doctrine. Survival is about total system control, and that includes controlling contagion, information, and social order under extreme stress, which leads us to the most politically radioactive stress point of all: Taiwan. This isn't diplomatic language. It's a pre-war language. Yeo is clear. Taiwan is not just another geopolitical hotspot. It's the foundation of the modern U.S.-China relations. From Nixon's 1972 trip to Deng Xiaoping's reforms, every accord was built on the fragile understanding of one China. To Washington, Taiwan may look like a democratic ally. To Beijing, it's sacred ground. Taiwan is not a bargaining chip. It's the very definition of China's post-colonial sovereignty. Violate that, and peace collapses. Yeo's warning is sharp. If the U.S. continues to treat Taiwan like a card to play, and not the foundation stone of trust, then ferocious storms, code for military escalation, become inevitable. And these won't be skirmishes. They will be multi-domain assaults, cyber, naval, and possibly nuclear. And in a cruel twist, they may not even be triggered by China, but by domestic breakdown in the U.S. In a striking reversal, Yeo turns the lens inward, not on Beijing, but on Washington. This isn't an exaggeration. Yeo compares today's polarization to the days leading up to the U.S. Civil War, a time when institutions cracked, trust collapsed, and words gave way to bloodshed. America today, he notes, is a nation where every institution, from the media to the Supreme Court, is seen through a partisan lens. And when systems are politicized, diplomacy becomes unpredictable. It's not just the president who decides foreign policy anymore. It's Congress, state governors, and even rogue prosecutors, all tugging in different directions. From tariffs to tech bans, from military aid to diplomatic visits, U.S. policy toward China is no longer consistent. and Beijing sees that as a strategic vulnerability. That uncertainty is more dangerous than aircraft carriers or missiles. Because in war, the most volatile actor isn't the one building weapons, it's the one that might act irrationally. You see, George Yeo didn't deliver a think tank lecture. He delivered a strategic blueprint for the 21st century. He showed that China isn't preparing for war because it wants one, but because it knows war is no longer unthinkable. He warned that the US, distracted by internal dysfunction, may stumble into confrontation not out of strategy, but out of confusion. And he reminded us that smaller nations must prepare not to win wars, but to absorb shock, maintain neutrality, and weather the fallout of a collapsing global consensus. So the question isn't whether a storm is coming, it's whether anyone's paying attention. What do you think? Should the United States be concerned about China preparing for war? Who do you think will start the war? China or the United States? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on how the world would change if China projects its military power after dominating the economic frontier. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, changing world order and current affairs. Things you need to stay informed. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.